Both of you refused to accept responsibility throughout the trial and still here today, which makes my job a lot easier. And instead of apologizing today, because you never have said you're sorry, but what you did do was put on one of the most reprehensible, narcissistic defenses that I have ever seen in my years of trial work. And may God have mercy on your souls, because this court will not. Please stand.
Blistering words from Judge Mary Claire Akers as Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance were sentenced to decades in prison today, answering to their historic convictions last month of human trafficking and forced labor.
It honestly hurts my soul that I have to bring this story to you folks, but this is just so emblematic of just how heinous and disturbed MAGA cultists can be. Fair warning, this is a very disturbing story, but this is excellent reporting from our friends over at Midas Touch that thankfully, as you saw there in the beginning, ends in some semblance of justice that we'll get to towards the end. But we have to talk about this saga of this woman who donated to Trump's political action committee multiple times, considered herself a part of MAGA, getting convicted for enslaving her adopted black children and forcing them to do labor and live in despicable conditions. So this woman was mooching off of the government, getting adoption money to pay for the enslavement of adopted black children. And then, on top of that, she was a financial supporter of the Republican Party, according to Federal Election Commission records. Midas Touch found that she donated a total of $120 in 2020 to the Trump Make America Great Again committee using WinRed, a Republican fundraising platform that collects money for GOP candidates and causes. Midas Touch was able to locate 3 Trump donations on the FEC website and obtained official reports from WinRed filed through the FEC confirming Whitefeather's name, address, and the Trump PAC she donated to. In other words, the modern-day slave overseers' donations fueled Trump and the Republican Party. I'll drop the link to this article if you want to go through it yourself as well in the description. But here's where things get really up. In October 2023, a deputy responding to a 911 call found children locked in the Trump donor's shed. Whitefeather had a motion activation security camera in an outdoor shed, watching a 14-year-old boy and a 16-year-old girl, and another in a room upstairs watching a 9-year-old girl and an 11-year-old boy. The upstairs room had no bed and only a tarp floor. At least one of the children had severe mental health disorders. During the trial, Eyewitness News reported on several details. One of the child victims testified that Whitefeather and her husband physically abused them with a PVC pipe, used pepper spray, locked them in a shed, and used racial slurs against them. Neighbors said the children were engaging in harsh labor in the yard and never seemed to play or take a break. There was an outdoor portable toilet for the trapped children to use while completing forced labor outside. The security video revealed that the children were forced to comply with a routine of waking up early and holding their hands over their heads, being unable to change or shower. They received only peanut butter sandwiches to eat. In the shed, the children used a camper toilet and held a sheet up to block each other from the camera. Investigators were able to obtain text messages exchanged between Whitefeather and her husband, describing the children as monkeys and pigs and detailing their physical abuse. One text message read, "Somebody didn't say thank you and his sandwiches disappeared." That message received a laughed-at tapback. Thankfully, recently, justice was indeed served.
Now, this was a case that stemmed from the October 2023 discovery of 2 teens locked in a shed in Sissonville and revealed years of abuse and neglect of 4 of their adopted black children. Whitefeather was sentenced to a maximum of 215 years for human trafficking, forced child labor, civil rights violations, and child abuse and neglect. Her husband, Lance, was sentenced to 160 years max for similar charges. He was found not guilty on the civil rights violations and had fewer child abuse charges than Whitefeather. This was the first time in state history that human trafficking charges were ever brought on the state level.
Prosecutors were able to prove to a jury that Whitefeather and Lance brought 5 adopted black children to Sissonville in May of 2023 from Washington State, made them do manual labor, and neglected and abused them with physical punishment and a lack of basic necessities. This, all while receiving adoption payments from the state of Minnesota. Kanawha County prosecutors holding a press conference this afternoon after securing the max sentence they were seeking.
I am so grateful for the opportunity to work with the children in this case. They are so wonderful, so smart, so funny. They are going to do amazing things in this world, and I'm so grateful to be a part of getting some semblance of justice for them after they...
Whitefeather and Lance have also been ordered to pay $280,000 each in restitution to the children.
And when Judge Mary Claire Akers handed down the sentence, it came with scathing remarks as she blasted Whitefeather and Lance for their treatment of the children and their inability to take responsibility.
Yes, and Anna Saunders, she joins us live now. And Anna, I mean, you were in that courtroom. What was it like when she handed down that sentence?
Well, Peyton, Gina, scathing is the right word for it. And it wasn't just Judge Akers who made her feelings known. The children victims in this case were there and faced Whitefeather and Lance. Once again, the oldest teen girl looked at Whitefeather and said, "I want you to know that you are a monster."
You brought these children to West Virginia, a place that I know is almost heaven, and you put them in hell. This court will now put you in yours. And may God have mercy on your souls, because this court will not.
The kids all talked about how their lives are better now, but they will never be the same. At one point, the teen girl looked at Whitefeather and said, "You are the actual definition of a monster," and said that they were not just physically abused, but full out tortured. Neighbors, the deputies, the prosecutors, and now the judge. Judge Akers, in her remarks, also commending the Sissonville neighbors who repeatedly reported Whitefeather and Lance in Sissonville for months before their arrests. She called that the one good thing in this case.
But the good in this is the people that took action here in the state of West Virginia. The good in this is that now these children are West Virginia's children and not your children.
So that is where we'll end this story, on the good of the people who called these monsters out and thankfully reported them. Because unfortunately, folks, as more and more monsters like that take control of our government institutions and wreck people's lives in public, there is so much more monstrous behavior that is at the core of what it is to be a part of the MAGA cult that happens in private and ruins people's lives like this, ruins children's lives. Where are the Republicans? Where are the right-wingers? Where are the maggots condemning and demonizing this kind of behavior? Every single one of their fucking MAGA accusations is nothing but an admission. And if that's not the case, I challenge maggots everywhere to denounce these people, to make videos about them, to call them out and say, this is not what we stand for. But they won't. They never will, because it is, in fact, what they stand for. And I guess aside from the justice they were served, the other silver lining of this is that I believe this was a state case, and therefore they can't be pardoned by the guy they donated to elect into office. With that, I have nothing left to say. For Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse. I'll see you guys in the next one.